Hi everybody, welcome once again, and in today's video I am going to explain you the concept of demand, law of demand and factors affecting demand. Here we have assumed a competitive market where firms are selling similar products and no single seller or buyer is able to influence the price of the product. There are a large number of buyers and sellers and the market price is determined by the intersection of market demand and market supply curves. So here we are going to study the behavior of buyers or consumers for purchase of goods and services in the product market. So we are not studying demand in the resource market but in the product market. Individual demand. Let's first begin with individual demand, which indicates the various quantities of a good or service the consumer is willing and able to buy. Important: willingness and ability to buy. I am willing to buy a luxury car, but at the same time I should have the ability to pay for it. Only then it will be termed as demand at different possible prices during a particular time period. This is a Latin phrase, ceteris paribus, which means all other things being equal. So all other determinants of demand apart from own price of the good are assumed to be constant. Consumers' income, taste and preference, all other factors which makes affect the demand for the commodity are assumed to be constant here. So here is a table representing price in dollars and quantity per week demanded. So if we plot these points in the form of a graph, we'll get a demand curve. So at a price of 5, quantity demanded is 2 per week. Then at a price of 4, it is 4. So we can plot all these points here. Then at 3, it's 6. Then at 2, it's 8. And similarly at 1, it's 10. So if you join all these points together, you will get a straight line curve, which is our demand curve. So let's join all these points together. So it's a linear demand curve if I join all these points together. So this is individuals demand curve representing combination of different prices and various quantities which are demanded by the consumer at all these possible prices. So here is our law of demand, which states that there is always an inverse relationship between the price of a good and its quantity demanded over a particular time period. So as price falls, quantity demanded will increase. On the other hand, if price rises, price increase, then in that case, quantity demanded falls. All other things affecting the demand for a commodity remaining constant. Now let's move from individual demand to market demand. Now market constitutes of thousands of consumers and not a single consumer. Here we have first taken into consideration two individual demand curves, and then from here we will move to our market demand. This is the demand curve for consumer A. So as we can see here that at a price of 5, the consumer consumes only 2 units, and at a price of 4, the consumer consumes 4 units, and so on. And this is the demand curve for consumer B. The consumption, or basically the demand of this commodity, let's say this is any XYZ good, of consumer B is different. Consumer B is demanding, like he wants to have 4 units at a price of 5, and similarly at a price of 4, he wants to consume more number of units, like 6, as compared to this consumer A. Consumer A at a price of 4, his quantity demanded was 4 only. Similarly, market constitutes of thousands of different consumers who will be consuming different quantities at different possible prices. And if we add all these, we'll get our market demand curve. So here, as we can see, that this quantity is mentioned is represented in thousands. So because this is market demand, so it will be the summation of demand for all the individual consumers in the market. So at a price of, let's say, $5 per week, in case of market demand, the quantity demanded is 4,000 units. and not 4 units. Similarly, at a price of 4, let's say this is 6,000 units, and so on. At price of 3, it is 8,000 units. So if we join all these together, we get our market demand curve. This is our market demand curve. Now let's differentiate between demand and quantity demanded. Demand refers to all possible combinations of price and quantity demanded. In this case, this whole curve represents the demand of the consumer. As we can see that at a price of 4, the quantity demanded is 6. So this particular point is quantity demanded, a particular quantity against a particular price. As price falls, the consumption, the quantity demanded increases to 6. Similarly, as price falls further, the quantity demanded increases to 8. So all these combinations, these various combinations at all possible prices represents the individual's demand, whereas a particular price and quantity combination refers to quantity demanded. The first non-price determinant is income, and we can further study its effect on normal and inferior goods. So normal goods are those goods whose demand increases with increase in income. So with increase in income, Y here represents income. The demand for normal goods increases. So if I have to show a diagram for this, I have to draw a diagram. So let's say the price of this normal good is constant, and this is the demand for normal good. In case income increases, demand for normal good shift rightwards. In case the good in question is an inferior good, so increase in income leads to fall in demand. As income increases, demand for the good falls. So in this case, the demand curve shifts leftward with increase in income of the consumer in case of inferior goods. Demand for inferior goods fall with increase in income of the consumer. An example of inferior good could be a used car. Next is taste and preferences. If a good becomes popular, is in fashion, so its demand shifts rightward. The demand curve shifts rightward with no corresponding change in price of the product. Similarly, if we talk about number of consumers, if number of consumers increases, demand shifts rightward, and if number of consumer decreases, demand curve shifts leftward. Same is with taste and preferences. If there is unfavorable taste and preference towards a product, then demand curve will shift leftward. This price of substitute goods. Substitute goods are used to satisfy a similar need, so they can be used in place of each other. For example, Coke and Pepsi. So let's say that price of Coke increases. So the demand for Pepsi will shift, the demand curve will shift rightward. And in case the price of Coke decreases in the market, then the demand for Pepsi will reduce, will decrease here, will shift leftwards. Next, we have price of complementary goods. Complementary goods are those goods which are used together. For example, table tennis ball and racket. So if price of one good increases, it will lead to a fall in demand for the other good. For example, if price of table tennis ball increases, and since they both are used, racket and ball are used together, so with increase in price of table tennis ball, the quantity demanded will fall for table tennis ball, and at the same time, because racket is used along with the ball, so the demand curve for racket, this is a demand curve for table tennis racket, shifts leftward.